Hey guys, I'm going to put this clip at the beginning of each area of care video, which is going to follow. So if you've already seen this clip, then skip past it. I will put the time marker down below as to when this bit of me talking is over with. So I used Rob's review, robbiewolf.com, link is down below, to study for and pass with flying colors my CPNE, which is part of the Excelsior LPN to RN Bridge program. It's the clinical big bad scary test. And it is big bad and scary. But I made a video of each area of care because that's my study technique. I made the video so that I could press play and practice the area of care while the video was going on beside me on my computer. Now, because you have to purchase Rob's review program, I can't give out any information that is proprietary to him. So there will be times in this video where I will blur something, I might cut something out, and all that's going to be left is the motions that you would do when you're doing the area of care correctly without using his mnemonics. Now, his mnemonics are awesome, so I highly suggest that you go onto his website and you purchase the program. It will be worth it. You do not want to fly to wherever, spend thousands of dollars for the test itself, get your hopes and dreams up, and then fail and have to come back and tell your family that you failed. So it's worth putting a bit of money out there to pass it. So for all of his mnemonics and all of his tips and hints and great teachings, get his program. But what I'm going to be showing you now is how to do each area of care going through the motions. Now, there's a few videos which I made which I won't be able to put up here because I put the mnemonics across the screen for each thing, and so that is proprietary to him, so I will just not be able to show those videos. So if there's a few AOCs that are not posted here on my channel, then that's why. So what I do post up here, I hope that you enjoy it. I hope it's useful to you. And if you're absolutely dying to see an AOC performed that I don't end up posting, then send me a message and let me know. But there are other YouTube videos out there showing how to do different AOCs. So I won't make any promises that I will post any additional videos past the ones that I'm about to post, but if I get enough requests, then I might succumb. So enjoy the video. So this is how I organized my binder that had to do with Rob's review. So this is my grid that I made out, and I can show that to you later. So I have my grid here, I have my plan of care here, which I'll show you more about that later. And then I had printed out all of my 2-minute templates, and I had stuck them in here or in here so that I could take them out and write them down or review them. So then I have all my AOCs written out. Oral enteral. So we have fluid oral. And here I would have had, I would have had the brat fever here too, because a lot of the things still apply even for oral, like burping the baby. And some of those things I wasn't completely 100% sure about. Like in Rob's review, he says no mnemonic here, just remember to burp the baby before and after, and to record the breastfeeding times if the baby's breastfed. But a lot of the things still apply. And then for oral enteral, this is what you care about, that intake enteral there. So you get your grid, and the CPNE goes over the grid with you, and then you get your report, and I would write the report on that sheet that they provide to you, which says data collection. You can write whatever you want to on here. It's just data collection. So I'd write my notes for the report on that sheet, and then the CPNE leaves the room so that you can write your grid. And honestly, it took me 30 to 40 minutes to write my grid. Maybe you guys will be faster than that, but it really helped me. It made me really organized, and so it made the rest of my PCS a lot faster because I did take the time to write a good grid at the beginning. All right, so this is going over the grid that I made for myself. So I did. When I got my paper, well, you can use the very last page on your booklet when you're at the CPNE, and I would fold it into thirds. So that makes these 3 columns. I'd fold it into thirds, and then I'd fold it in half and in half again. So that would give me these 12 boxes. So it wouldn't look like this where it's, lines drawn inside the paper. It would look like I take the last page, and it's connected to something, it's connected to the rest of the booklet, but you can still do this. So I would go a third and a third, so the long way, folding it a third and the long way. And then, well, because it's part of a booklet, like when I was practicing, I would fold it this way and this way again to make 12, but because it was in the real CPNE, it was part of a booklet, so I couldn't fold it that way. So then I just guessed where the halfway mark was, and then I divided that in half. And then I drew in this line, so that I ended up with 12 boxes. Just like this. And then I just memorized, this is my template, but I memorized how to do this, and so I can write this all down by memory here. The second half of this box was always for supplies, and so I would put as I was writing down my mnemonics, I would go through the mnemonics, say that it was comfort, and I wanted to give a massage as part of an intervention. Then I would put lotion up here in the supplies box. So that way when I went to the supplies room, I could, and I did do this in CPNE, and they were pretty impressed, is I would say, okay, so I need lotion, I need a receptacle, I need a disposable cup for mouth hygiene. I just went down the list and checked everything off as I got it. So then 20-minute check box. So my mnemonic I made is RIMHOT, RIMHOT. So I ended up, you would change these around because I only thought of RIMHOT later. R is for review. I is for IVs. So the IV is what is the solution and at what rate. And then M is moisture or mucous membranes. And then H is hydration, so that is my cue to talk to them about eyes and nose, so everything that goes in and out, and emptying their water and getting them new water, and talking about the urinal or the nun's hat, so that's hydration, my cue. And then O is oxygen, so if they're using oxygen, what liter, so 2 liters. Is it by condenser? Is it by wall unit? What's the delivery system? And then T is tube. So did I check all the tubes for kinking and integrity and patency? So that's there. And then what I also did was, while I was in the mode of the 20-minute check, I also did this with all of my PCSs. I had in and out, so that's what's going in them and what's coming out of them. So is there, if it's IV fluid, it's going in. If it's a Foley catheter, it's going out. And honestly, I put down oxygen too going in, even though it's not fluid. It was just kind of my way of remembering what tubes were going in, that were connected to the patient that were delivering stuff in, and what tubes were connected to the patient that were delivering stuff out. So in every one of these AOC boxes, there is RID, R, wash, and clean. So RID is, your teaching, and then R is the patient's response. You always want to get their response with every single AOC. Wash is, did you wash your hands at the beginning of the AOC? And clean is cleaning the stethoscope if you use your stethoscope, just normally with alcohol, depending on where you're at, but that was what my facility, their protocol was, just to wipe it down with alcohol. So I would look at these things before I left the room. So for example, if it was abdominal neuro, I would cross out RID because you don't need to teach, but the other things still apply. So say that it was RID, and I would do CAR, and then I would check everything off as I did it, and I would write my notes over here as to what their comfort level was and what interventions were done. Oral enteral. Fluid management. So entering the room, hands high, verify and why. Up the arm, down the arm, and all around technique, 20-minute checks. If I'm assigned fluid management, then I'm going to get a pitcher and a cup, which may already be in the room, and a nun's hat. So this is going to be the pitcher and the cup. So I'm going to wash my hands. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Drying off. Hi, I'm Alita Rayner, and I'm an Excelsior College RN nursing student, and this is my clinical examiner. Her name is Laura. And before I do anything, I just need to check your ID if you don't mind. Very good. So I see that you are Susie Q, and your birthday is January 1st of 1970. And how would you like me to call you? Susie? Okay, good. So I'm here today because I'm going to be doing a fluid management area of care with you. Thank you for letting me take care of you. I see the ID band, and then I'm going to go up. The arm. I don't see any IVs. Alright, and then if you don't mind, can I just pinch your clavicle to check if you are dehydrated? Okay, thank you. Okay, very good. No tenting. So, Susie, can I look in your mouth? Okay, very good. So your mucous membranes are good. I'm going to keep going. So it looks like you have some water. I'm a student and I need to record everything that goes in and out. So I'm going to dump out this water and get you some fresh water. When I come back, just tell me how many of these cups that you drink. And then, oh, I see that you are a baby. So, Mama, can you please let me know when you are breastfeeding, and so I can record how many minutes on each side? Very good. Thank you. Also, if you have to urinate, try to use this urinal instead of going to the bathroom. If you have to use the bathroom, let me know and I'll escort you to the bathroom. Versus women would be nun's hat, so this would be, please use this nun's hat. Okay, implement. Encourage fluids when assigned. Restrict fluids when assigned. Thicken fluids when assigned. Feed the infant when assigned. Encourage the mother to breastfeed. Mama, can you breastfeed your baby? Prepare bottle with formula as noted on PCS assignment. Provide bottle to infant. 15, Burp infant periodically during feeding and as necessary. Okay, I'm going to burp you. Measure intake of enteral fluids. So I see that in the bottle I have this much fluid, and I'm going to feed the baby. Go, 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 go. I'm going to burp the baby. Bop, 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 bop. And I see that the baby drank 20 cc's of this fluid. And the baby seems happy. Patient's response. Baby seems happy. Or if it's an adult, do you feel like you drank enough water? You feel not thirsty? Okay, good. So I'm going to write patient response down here on the bottom. So for teaching for fluid management, we'll say, do you know why it's so important to keep hydrated? It's because... So more or less, would you be able to tell me what you just heard? Yep, that's correct. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Document on fluid management flow sheet. Type of enteral fluid intake, water, breastfed, Enfamil, etc. So, enteral. I write Enfamil, 20 cc's. Right breast, 5 minutes. Left breast, 5 minutes. So I'm going to document where the IV sites are, what the running fluid is via IV or tube feeding, and the type and rate, and the education. Okay, I'm just going to check over my notes and make sure I didn't forget anything. So I would do my intervention, and then I would say, did I teach? And I'd, oh, I forgot to teach, and then I would teach, and then I would check that off, and I would say, oh yeah, I did wash my hands when I came in the room, and then, oh, I forgot to ask, what is your response? So when I did that that massage, how did that make you feel? And it made you feel okay. So then I'd always write down in quotation marks their words. It made me feel okay. Okay. All right. So I checked that box off. And no, I did not use my stethoscope for this AOC. So I'm just going to cross that off. And then down here, this is something that somebody else did. They'd write scab here as a reminder to themselves to scab out all the time. I just always remembered to scab out. I didn't end up looking over here every time that I was going to leave a room. That's what the other person suggested. If you want to, you could do clean and scab here if you're only keeping your eyes in the box, but I did write scab down here. I only wrote it down once because my theory was if you are looking over here, you only need to see it visually. You don't have to check it off or cross it off because you're scabbing out of the room and you're leaving. But so I just wrote it down once in reality. And then so I had those 4 things on every single AOC, and I would write in the same box the mnemonic, and then next to it I would write my notes regarding that mnemonic and my assessment. And then when I was done with an assessment, I would take out a yellow highlighter and I would cross it out in a big yellow cross off, big yellow X, so that my eyes didn't have to go there anymore because I was done with that. And that was when I was sure that I was done with everything. And if I wasn't done with one little thing on it, so say I was doing oxygen and I wanted to, I also had muscle, so I had muscle and oxygen assigned in this example. And so the oxygen, you want to measure their oxygen before, during, and after an activity, well, you're assigned to get them up out of bed and walk them to the nursing station anyway. So you would be combining those two things. So I would say I was done with everything else to do with oxygen, but I wasn't done with the O2 element of it. And so I would highlight in yellow just the O2 part of the mnemonic, and then I would draw a red line up to muscle, and then I would write into the muscle activity, that A part of the mnemonic, I would write in O2 before, during, and after, right there in red, so that I knew. And then once that was done, then I could cross this whole box off in yellow, because I was done then with all the elements of the oxygen. Okay, so then down here it always looked like this. So I would write out all these things, all the stuff that I just went over, all my mnemonics, and then I would write my care plan, and I'll talk to you more about this in a minute. And then as soon as I had my assessments written in, I would write them in assessment 1, assessment 2. And then as soon as I had my interventions written in, I would write intervention 1, intervention 2. And then I would write, once I have my expected outcome written out, then I would write my expected outcome right here. So I would have, when I did my assessment, or let me say that better, when I did my plan of care, and you have your 2 assessments up here, I would write those assessments. So what the nursing assessment was in report, I'd write that here. So lungs, crackles, bilateral lower lobes, and O2 91% on 3 liters or whatever. And so then when I went into the room, and when it was appropriate time to talk about it, like maybe in the respiratory or oxygen assessment or management AOCs, I would say, so in report I got that you have crackles in your lungs, so we're going to listen for that. And what I would do is anything that applied over here, so anything that was an assessment that I needed to check on, so that I could fill out this part over here with what I heard to correspond with what I got in report. I would write that in red or a different color on the AOC. So if it was the crackles and the oxygen, then I would write in the respiratory assessment, say that it was my respiratory AOC was written out here. I would do a box and I'd say crackles question mark, and another box and I'd say O2. The O2 is already part of it, but that helps me remember that I'm going to be comparing that with what I got in report, and I can fill it in here. So I'd write no crackles heard here, and I'd write O2 93%, and then I would be able to fill that in here. No crackles heard and 93%, but saying it more fully than that. And then over here, interventions. So what my interventions were, so let's say cough and deep breathe. So I'd write it up here. My intervention was cough, so I'd write cough and deep breathe. And then in my respiratory, I would also do the red box and say cough, red box, deep breathe. And then that way, after I did the cough and deep breathe, then over here I'd put what the result was, because you want to know if your interventions worked. So you would say cough, sputum produced, and deep breathe, oxygen level increased to 97% after interventions. And then up here, with the cough, you'd also say the result of the coughing was also not only was sputum produced, but then you'd also write lungs clear to auscultation after. So that's kind of, that feeds into your outcome. So you're kind of building your outcome out of these things. When I was first writing my grid at the very beginning, I would write here the outcome I'm trying to reach. So that over here with your outcome, because this is the last box that I looked at before I left. So your scab is just a visual reminder to scab out of the room every time. And I didn't ever use, scab is just my way of remembering that I'm supposed to check stuff, but I just memorized the, what do you call it, the script kind of. So I would look down at the edge of their bed, and I'd say, okay, your bed is locked, and I'd look at the upper part of their bed, your side rails are up, and I look in their bed, on their bed, your call light is there, and then I look at the face and say, and is there anything more that I can do for you before I leave? So I look down at the bottom of the bed, I look at the side rails of the bed, I look for the call light, and I'd also say, and there's no alarms present, if there's no alarms present, and then is there anything I can do for you? So your bed is low and locked, side rails are up, you don't have any alarms present, your call light is right there, and is there anything I can do for you? So I just memorized the script, and scab is just my way of remembering to do that script. I don't even remember what exactly the scab stands for. I kind of do, but. So this is the last box I would look at before I finish my AOC. So I would look at everything, like double check that I did everything, and by that token, I would, before I put my yellow X or anything, I would carefully double check that I had done everything in that mnemonic, and then I would cross it out and I'd say, okay, so now we're going to move on to your peripheral neurovascular assessment, and etc. But then at the very end, after I did all of my AOCs, this is the last box that I would look at. So it would say, it says output, so that would cue me in to look at my fluid management flow sheet. And I would also refer to up here to make sure that I wasn't forgetting that, oh yeah, they have a Foley. And so I'd fill out my fluid management flow sheet, and then the outcome. So, and then at the end of my time with the patient, I wouldn't fill this in when I was standing there with them, because I would just be standing there writing on my paper. But this is this is essentially a reminder of, this is what I wanted the outcome to be, and this is what the outcome actually was. So again, these boxes are before and after, before and after, before and after, before and after, before and after. So it's at the beginning of the PCS, and then at the end of the PCS after interventions or what your own assessments were. And so then I'd go into the patient's room after you present your plan of care to the CE, and they tell you if you can continue or not. And then you go into the patient's room, and some of the AOCs or some of the PCSs, I actually took the time to say, okay, so one of the things that we noticed was that you are your oxygen can get a little bit low, and that you have some sounds in your lungs that we don't like. So we're going to be doing some interventions today, the respiratory AOC. We're going to be doing some interventions today, and our hope is that by the end of my time with you, that you're going to have clear lung sounds. And so, does that plan sound okay to you? So sometimes I would take the time when I was talking about like why I was there and what we were going to do today, I would actually mention what my plan of care was with them. I didn't do that with all of them though. But I did when it came to the point of actually doing the respiratory AOC, then at that point I would mention like, okay, so we're hoping that after you cough that you can have clear lung sounds, So that is my grid. That's how I did my grid, and hopefully it will help you. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So I incorporated made sure that all the brat fever elements were in this. This just helped me to know exactly which actions my body was doing throughout it. So it's kind of like a little poem almost. Enter the fowl's head to peer around and talk about his scab. Drink and eat, don't expire, but count your blessings. Enter the 5 who teach to pause and cover the big hockey roar. And then I added on to this with a blanket. So it would be enter, hands high, verify why. The fowl is fowlers. Head is head to toe and examine skin and dressing. To peer around, peering is you're looking around. Verify running fluids and with the fluid sheet. And then talk is to talk about I's and O's. So talking about the water pitcher, talking about the nun's hat, and things like that. Scab is you're going to leave the room. Drink is you're going to get the fresh water. So when you leave the room, you have the pitcher in hand. Drink is to get fresh water. Eat is to get your solution if you are, we're in the enteral tube section. So you're getting your solution for the enteral tube. So, so eat is to get your solution, your syringe and your cylinder, that I put the syringe into for any kind of enteral feeding, and then eat. So we just did that one. Don't expire is the expiration date. You're gonna write while you're in the med room. You're gonna check the expiration date and write it down on your grid. But count your blessings. Count is doing your 5 rites times 2 in the med room. Enter is to enter the patient's room. Enter the 5. So 5 is your last set of 5 rites. So you're checking with against the patient's ID, and you're checking the medication and the time and all that kind of stuff. Who teach, so you're going to teach about, you have to give meds one by one, and you're teaching about the solution, what it is and why you're giving it, just like you would teach for medications. To pause, so ask your CE to pause the running enteral feeding machine. And cover, CV, is to clamp the feeding tube that is coming from them, and then so you're going to clamp it, and then you're going to insert your syringe, and you're going to unclamp it, and you're going to verify gastric residual, and you're going to have a line. So this and this, that is 20 cc's and 20 cc's reinstilled. And so on the grid, I would write 20 and 20. Cover the big. B is for burp. You're going to burp a baby before you're going to give the solution. Hockey is HC, hockey. So hang the new solution, connect the tube to the feeding tube on the patient, and then ask the CE to start the machine. ROAR, RR, is response and condition so the patient's response and the condition of the skin and the dressing after you have started your the enteral fluid running, and then the other R is record the amount and type, which is part of the burp. And then so cover the big hockey roar with a blanket. B is to burp again after it's running. So because it makes more sense to burp them after 5 or 10 minutes after they have been getting the feeding. So you burp before and already, and then you're burping after it's been running for a while. What I would have done if I had a baby and had the situation is I would write burp on like the next AOC that I was planning on doing. So the next box with the AOC written in it, say it was muscle, I would write in red burp with a little check box next to it, so that after I was done doing the musculoskeletal assessment or whatever it was, then I'd remember, oh yeah, it's been 5 or 10 minutes since the feeding started, so now I'm going to burp them again. So this is oral enteral, and I did the same. Sarah can voluntarily ride, except that for the solution in Sarah, that was replaced by type, so you'd say breast milk. And then the R in Sarah is rate. Well, you're going to instead replace that with if they how much time they used on each breast, or they drank from each breast. And then condition, I said condition of mouth, and volume of intake at the time. So you can't really say volume if it's breastfeeding, but you can if it's other kinds of oral enteral. And then the response to their feeding, and your initials if it's something that you need to initial. So this is in addition to the Sarah can voluntarily ride. We have the my oral enteral poem. My enteral fluids poem, and I just crossed out things that don't apply. So you're not going to examine the skin and the dressing, because there is no. You can examine the oral mucosa before giving oral fluids, and then pause and cover is you're not going to ask anyone to pause on your machine. You're not going to clamp anything. You're not going to verify gastric residual, and then for hockey, I crossed that one out and just replaced it with provide oral fluids. So that was that in combination with my what to document mnemonic is what I use for oral enteral.